module 4 now, which is the discovery piece for the client. This is where we get into the real questioning heart of the sales section. So we've done a lot of work today. We've been building up information, building up the rapport, working on networking, a lot of things we've been doing. But now this is actually, we're in the client's office, we're in the sales mode of questioning and solution provision. And this is the first part. So in this section here, we're trying to come up with the right questions, powerful questions, to get the information we need. Because without that information, we won't know how to propose to the client our solution. They want it in blue, and we didn't ask the question, we're talking about green, it's not going to work, right? And then we create interest by describing how they can benefit or expect to benefit from the solution. So we're building anticipation. We've got some good news coming. We differentiate the types of buyers and what motivates them, because not everybody's in the same responsibility position in the company. They have different roles, so they tend to view the discussions with us in different ways. It's very good to know who we're talking to in that regard. And then finally, close the buyer gap here between need and action. Just because they have a need doesn't mean they're going to do anything about it. So there's a gap between what they need to do and what they are doing, but they take no action. So how do we get that gap to seem to them so powerful they need to do something about it? So that's a really critical piece for sales. Dale Carnegie principle number 17, try honestly see things from the other person's point of view. And with clients, that's got to be our goal. If we can get ourselves to sit on the same side of the table as they are and look at their problem together as a partner, then we're more likely to get a solution and therefore get some business relationship started. So rather than concentrating on what we want, okay, what is important to us, we need to flip it and put ourselves on the same side, looking at the problem with them, looking for solutions.
One of the seven habits, highly effective people.
This is actually Dale Carnegie principle number 17.
Yeah, but then
But then in Covey also has, Covey also has the same.
See first, understand, then be understood.
The same idea. Yeah.
Very cool.
Except Dale Carnegie was about 50 years ahead of it.
Yes, he was.
So Covey's got the same idea, and it's a good idea. It's a very good idea. So one of the ways we can get into the questioning side is through what we call an agenda statement. Now, in your manuals on page 4.3, you can see it laid out there. But the agenda statement is to set the tone and the direction of the meeting. All right? Now, it could be a physical agenda. It could be something you actually typed up, sent by email. You bring a copy yourself. You actually pass it across the table, which says what's going to happen in the meeting. Like any agenda for a meeting, just like that. The agenda call. So here we talk about, at the beginning, as we open the meeting up, we talk about the specific buyer benefit to having this meeting. Okay, we justify the fact we're having this meeting. We're starting the meeting with a justification, a strong statement about why this is good for the client to have this meeting. That's where we begin, right? So we get it straight around client benefit. That's the first thing. Then we go through the things we're going to cover in the meeting. So there'll be probably some areas you want to address in the meeting with the client. You know, it might be things like understanding the client's current situation, understanding the client's requirements going forward, talking about our lineup. These could be the items you'd list in the agenda. Right? There's no secrets. You're not springing anything on anyone. You're telling them this is what we're going to talk about. But some people, they like that approach. People who are analyticals, people who are very detail-oriented, you give them something on paper, they love that. It says what's going to happen in the meeting. The meeting is set down in the plan. They love that too. And then you transition straight to the first point of the agenda, right? So having gone through why we're here today, why this is a benefit to the client, these are things we're going to discuss, and then, shall we move to the first point of today's agenda? Now, the agenda might be in your head. It might be just something you say. Well, strong reason why we should meet today. I thought we'd cover these things. Are there, and this is a good question too, at this point, at the end of this point, are there any things you would like to add? All right? So are there any additional points you would like to add in that agenda? So you give them some option to have some ownership of that meeting. All right? So this is on 4.3. So 4.3. So you see the example of the why we're here. We're here today to share some ideas that can improve your business by exploring profitability and bringing more clients to you. Okay? We'll explore ways to utilise your budget more effectively, increase sales, improve your bottom line. So here's the justification as an example of why we're here. So they're very clear on the point. Why we're here to help them. That's the point, right? And then we're going to go through, well, let's talk about some items. What those items might be. Are there any items you'd like to add to the agenda? All right, add that on there. And then you say, well, shall we go and start with the first point, which might be, what's your current situation with regarding promotion, or whatever it might be. Everyone clear? Everyone good on that? A possible agenda. A possible agenda for today's meeting could be, we could discuss this and this and this and this.
Is there anything
you'd like to add to that? Does that sound okay? Okay, sure. Let's start with the first point. Let's talk about your current situation. Right? So that's why you're planning the meeting in detail before you get to the meeting, because you've got that agenda either written down, you send it by email. Now, some people who are highly analytical, they'll want the agenda. What are we going to talk about? Send me the agenda. I get that. I get that. Send me the agenda. I can find. Others, they don't need a piece of paper. You just tell them what we're going to talk about. They're good on that, because you only talk about 3 or 4 things anyway. It's not like you're going to have 10 things to go through. You won't have that much time. And really what you want to talk about is, what are they doing now? What do they want to be doing? Why that's not working, and what's some possible solutions? That's probably it. In reality, those 4 things are all you're going to talk about, and then you start with what's the current situation. So what we're looking for here is a smooth way to get straight into the business meeting, because you've already met them, or you've talked on the phone. Now, in this case, there might be a little bit of rapport building before this, right? Might be a little bit of rapport building before this in the first stage. Around, thank you very much for your time on the phone the other day. I really appreciated that you agreed to meet with me. I want to tell you a little bit about what we might talk about today. I thought this might be a workable agenda. How does it sound? Are there things you'd like to add to that? Does that sound okay? Okay, well, shall we begin with the first point? Then, it's all permission. It's all permission to do things. It's permission to say, these are things we're going to talk about today, including any items they have, and then permission to start. Right? So straight in there. Got the idea? Everyone good? Let's design it. Away you go. Okay. So, there we go. This is not particularly complex. It's just a structure. Complexity is not in the structure. It's a simple structure, but it's the delivery which has got to be smooth. So that's the part we need to work on. So, take it away. I'd probably be less directive about we will do this, and then we will do that, and then we will do something else. It's an agenda, right? So you say, here today, thank you very much for your time on the phone. I'm here today to see were there areas we may be able to help you. We may have solutions which will fit possible needs you have. I have a brief agenda for today's meeting to give us some direction, and the thought was we might cover these areas. Your current situation, where you'd like to be with the business, any barriers that you feel are really hindering the progress towards that, and then maybe I can explore some solutions we might have to help you do it. Does that sound okay? And are there any things you'd like to add to that agenda for today? That sounds fine? Well, let's start with the first part of the agenda. Do you hear the difference?
Yeah.
It's not directive. It's not, okay, now I'm going to tell you how this meeting's going to run. It's very gentle. It's very soft, it's very collaborative. It's like, this is, just to give the meeting some structure. Maybe these are some points we could discuss, and I was thinking about these points, and do you have any you'd like to add to that? And then you give them the chance to be part of the conversation, because they're deciding what's in the conversation, as opposed to, right, this is how it's going to run today. I'm in charge. You sit back, listen to me, and then give the right answer at the appropriate point. That's too forceful for most clients. So they want to be directed, especially their bosses.
Yeah.
They are not going to like that type of talk. If they're bosses, they will not like that type of talk because that's the talk they give out. It's not the talk they receive, right? So you've got to be cautious about being too directive, I think. Right? So let's try it again with being less directive. Okay, let's go again. Not or, and. Does that sound okay to you? And? Is there anything you'd like to add? See, it's not or, it's and. The language is different. Does that sound okay? And is there anything you'd like to add? Because once you get into or, then that's a choice. You're not offering them a choice. You're saying, here's the agenda, and you get to add stuff to it. Not you get to change the agenda. You see, hear the difference? Here's what here's what we're going to talk about, but I don't say here's what I want to talk about. I talk about, well, today I thought we could look at a few of the key points. For example, your current situation, where you'd like to be, things that are hindering you from getting there as fast and as successfully as you'd like, and also maybe explore some solutions. Does that sound like the sort of things we can talk about today? And is there anything you'd like to add to that? So all very hesitant, not directive. It's very, soft sell.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I very rarely get that to the end. I mean, to be honest, in my sales conversation, I think about how many times do I get down to what's the cost. Don't get that till the very end.
Yeah.
I think the word possible solutions is always a better alternative.
Yeah,
Possible
okay.
solutions. So then it leaves it open. And if they're having understood what they want, then moving into the solution phase is the next logical step, and we set that up, right?
Yeah. Right.
Could be, having listened to what you've said, let me come back to you with a proposal.
Right.
Go away and come back with a proposal. That's often how it works. So this is with Christie Skills, just it's on page 4.4. So these are just some hints. When people say something, trying to get more information out, more clarification, like, well, it's been a bit of a problem for us of late. Yeah, in what way has that been a problem? So you're digging for what is more information about the problem, right? Or well, how so? Yeah, we have a timing issue. Oh, how so? Why is that? Why is it a timing issue? Or, could you tell me a bit more about that? Or, how do you mean? I'm not quite sure I understand. Tell me why. These are digging in questions, trying to get more depth, more information. The more information we have about the problem, the more likely our solution will be a perfect fit for the client's outcome required. Then we get into the confirm. So what I'm hearing you say is, boom, 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 just to make sure I'm understanding it perfectly. Let me test my understanding. There's another one. That sounds like, or it seems to me, this is the issue, or as I understand it, this is where you need to go. So we need to have some more dig style questions. We have some more, make sure I'm on the same wavelength, because sometimes we can misunderstand the client. It's always good to check our understanding before we start racing off into solution. This gives you more dig into what the problem is. You've got a solution in mind, but you want to make sure that actually you understand they want blue, not green. That's what we're looking at. If we're able to meet those things you've mentioned as being critical, that sounds like that would take your business forward. Am I correct in understanding that? So another way of saying it. So on page 4.5, okay, we've got the interview. Excuse me. This is just a drill on questioning skills, basically. So this, the interview is getting to know someone. It's sort of typical conversation you have with someone you work with when you first start to work with them. It's probably not necessarily a conversation you're going to have with a client, per se, but we do this in training just to get used to asking questions and getting clarification and digging a bit deeper. So we get practice of taking questioning down a few levels, okay? This is not what you'd necessarily use on a client. I mean, we're not saying that. This is just for questioning skills as a drill. All right. So why don't we give this a run before we move on to the buying perspective. On 4.6, it talks about the value summary. So what they're doing here is they're trying to connect any values you heard that person holds from the discussion you had. So you've heard each other. Just pick up any values you feel you heard there from that conversation. The reason we do this is because if we can understand, when we're dealing with clients, from their answers, if we can understand the value set that they have, that can really be helpful in the way we deal with them, in the way we converse with them, in the way we appeal to them, in the way we package up what we have to make it the most appropriate solution for their problem. When we're on a case where we're in sync with the values of the buyer as well, then they feel very comfortable with us, they can trust us. When the values are markedly different, it's very, very hard to build a trust. So it's through those conversations that we begin to get an idea of the value set of the client. Okay? All right. So, how we go? What did you hear? Okay, very good. So you see, we have the opportunity when we're having conversations with clients to get to quite a level of depth beyond just basic asking questions, because the way they answer their questions, the way they'll talk about issues that are important to them, will tell us a lot about their value set. So look for that, and see that there's a match with your own value set and the way you project yourself to them, to emphasize that yes, they're values that you share in common. Right? On page 4.7, we're going to talk about buying perspectives. Now, this is a really critical analysis we need to make of our client base when we're talking, because the old expression is where you sit influences how you see the world, you know. And where you sit here means where you sit in the company. Right? So if you're the CFO, if you're the financial buyer, you'll have a completely different perspective if you're sitting down there as a technical buyer. If you're the executive buyer, the leader, and you're the user buyer, different perspective. So when we're talking to our clients, we have to know exactly who are we talking to, and therefore, what should the conversation be about? So you can imagine, you know, if you're talking to the financial buyer, what's going to be the key issues there?
Numbers, budget.
It's going to be?
All about the numbers.
It's going to be numbers, right? It's going to be
Bottom
budget.
line, financial.
It's
budget.
going to be probably timing of payment. It's probably going to be terms and conditions of payment. Right? We're all going to be influential there for the buyer, financial buyer. If they're the user buyer, okay, what do you think is going to be important to the user buyer?
How it will make their job easier.
Yeah, how it affects their life, how it affects their job, right? How it improves their current condition. If they're the executive buyer, what's likely to be a key thing there?
How it improves the bottom line.
Well, yeah, bottom line, and they probably have targets. They probably have a vision. They probably have a strategy for the direction of the business. They're looking probably fairly long-term, big picture. So how does our solution fit in to deliver all of those things for the executive buyer, who's usually the CEO, managing director, that type of level of person? And what about the technical buyer? What are they worried about?
Technical buyers is just the features.
Yeah, technical buyers, the spec, you know, quality, maintenance guarantees, replacement guarantees, quality guarantees, performance guarantees. They're interested in all of those sorts of things. You know, consistency. They're usually very detail-oriented people, and they want to know the spec, they want to know what comes with this apart from just the solution itself. So on 4.8, what would be some questions we'd ask the financial buyer? What would be some we'd ask the executive buyer, the user buyer, and the technical buyer? So we're going to go into questioning skills here. Well, exactly what questions will we ask each of those people? They've got particular key interests, so we need to find out their perspective. Let's design a question that will help us understand what that perspective is. Now, for there's a broad range. Even with a CFO, you might think it's just money. It may not be money. It may be money in this financial year and money split across next financial year. It might be prepay the service in this financial year because they've got excess cash and they don't want to give it back. So there's bound to be timing issues. Even with, you might think, oh, the financial CFO only interested in money, only interested in cost. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They might have timing things. They might say, well, look, we want to have a 60-day payment cycle. We need 60 days. We can't do it in 30. That makes a difference, right? So you need to know these things. What's the key? So if you can't do 60 days, then you're going to have an issue here right away. They won't accept what you're offering because your terms won't meet their requirement. You better know what the requirement is at the beginning. So let's think about some questions for each of those buyers. Anyone have a question about what we're about to do? You all good on that? You all good? Okay, let's go. Now we're talking about needs analysis. And this is really looking at what's driving the behaviour of the buyer. So there are 4 key areas to look at. One is the primary interest. What are they trying to achieve? Is it more sales, higher quality, faster turnaround, cost savings? There'll be something driving what they want to happen. So our questioning should bring out what is the primary thing they want to achieve. We should know that. We should also know what's going to be the requirements of sale. What's the buying criteria, which could be spec, it could be budget, it could be quality, it could be a number of things in that technical area. It could be payment timing. It could be any number of things that, to make this work for them, we have to provide it. This risk versus reward, this is, if they give up one thing, like money, they expect to get another thing like value or return or performance to justify the risk. Okay, so when we need to understand what's their risk-reward appetite, and also what's the cost of no action versus the cost of action. Because taking no action is the easiest choice. Not doing anything new, not doing anything different is the easiest default mode. But we need to understand, do they calculate the cost of no action? If you don't grow your sales substantially in the next 5 years, what will that mean for the company's overall position? So you've got them thinking now around those sorts of more longer term aspects of taking a decision today, which has no immediate payoff, but will have a payoff down the line. So that's a question we need to have designed to pull out that risk-reward ratio they're talking about. And then finally, what's the individual motive? What's the decision maker's emotional drivers? Now this could be around what's in it for them, you know, as an individual, or what's in it for the company. Does this affect their promotion capacity? Does this affect their bonus capacity? Does this affect their incentive scheme? Does this affect their ability to hold on to their job? Does it affect them in terms of getting cooperation from other parts of the company? Does it affect them in terms of getting praise and recognition? Does it build their status in the organisation? Does it drive Japan's status up globally? There's any number of things which for them are very individual. Our questions, we need to pull that out too. All of these are end results of our questions. So if we look on page 4.10, we look at primary interest. What are we talking about? Again, effectiveness, efficiency, safety, comfort, flexibility, return on investment. These are the sorts of things that we need to be asking questions around these points. And then the buying criteria: features, budget, approval, support, location, quality. We need to be asking questions which pull this information out from them so we can have a good understanding of it. And then the risk versus reward. This is the what happens if you don't do it question. What do you see as the possibility if you do it? What is the consequence if you don't do it type of question? And then individual motive. This is, again, relationships with others in the company, recognition within the company, their self-fulfillment of doing a good job, how they feel about themselves, their self-confidence, self-preservation, keeping their job, having more power, having more money, having bigger bonus. All those sorts of things we talked about come up in that section. Now we get into the questioning model. And this is on page 4.12. And the issue here between the first two sections there is the client's current situation, where they are today, and the should be, where they want to be. So the company, the business is motoring along at a certain rate. It's going to some extent either good or not so good, but they want it either to improve or to be better. That's where they want to get to. But there's a gap. Now, if they feel the gap between where they are now and where they need to be is very tight and very close, well, they don't think they need to do anything. And therefore, our solution is not required. We have no input into fixing that business problem for them. And that is no way to make a sale. We have to explain and show that, hey, you're here, but really you need to be there, and you got a big distance you've got to cover there to make it up. We're here to help you make it up. We're here to help you overcome those barriers that are preventing you from being where you should be. Now, sometimes they don't feel they need to do anything. Oh, we're fine. We're all good. Nothing needed. So in our questioning model, we've got to dig out where they are weak, where they have pain points they haven't recognised, or future pain points they haven't anticipated, or they haven't calculated, or they haven't allowed for. So this is a very, very critical part of our job in the sales, is to make that bridge look like it's a long gap. Now, think about the gap between where a client is today and where they should be. Okay, things they need to do, and the risk of not taking any action. Not taking any action. So imagine we're at the gas stand, and you pull in the gas stand. The attendant looks at our car while they're filling up the engine petrol. They notice that the front left-hand tyre is a bit low in pressure. And the attendant says to us, the driver, I notice that the front left-hand tyre air pressure is a bit low. I think you might have a slow leak there. In about 10 minutes, we can fix that for you. But I'm busy, right? I've got the slow leak. I don't want to have a leak at all. But I don't feel any tension between where I am now and where I should be. I don't feel any pressure to do anything about it. So I say, yeah, got that, but I've got no time. I've got to get moving. I've got to go. So I drive away. So the service station or the gas stand, they didn't make a sale on fixing my tyre problem. That's one scenario where there's no urgency. There's nothing there that's pressuring them to fix that gap problem. Same scenario. Come to the gas stand, pull up, put petrol in the car, says to the driver, I noticed that the front left-hand tyre air pressure's a bit low. Looks like you've got a slow leak there. We had a client here, the same problem last week. Unfortunately, they were very busy. They couldn't do anything about it. They took the car out, they threw it on the highway. Front tyre blew, and the whole car went into a series of rolls. Terrible, terrible disaster. The whole family was killed. Would only have taken 10 minutes to fix that problem, and it would never have happened. Why don't we take that 10 minutes now and make sure that doesn't happen for you? Do you hear the difference? Right? Same problem. Leaky tyre, gap, but the gap in the first instance wasn't felt to be big enough. In the second instance, there was a consequence of no action. So what we're talking about here is when we're asking the questions, we've got to be asking questions which draw out the gap between where they are and where they need to be. And sometimes where they need to be is beyond where they think they need to be, right? Because we talk about the future. So you'll see on page, on that page 4.12, when we go through the questioning model. The questioning model starts with, where are you now? Or it actually could start with, where do you want to be? I mean, those as is and should be are interchangeable, in fact. Okay. As is and should be are interchangeable there. Sometimes clients will tell you straight away their problem. Yeah, we're really not getting enough traction. And they're straight into the should be. That's fine. You're not going to fight it. But you need to come back and get them to talk about the as is, because you need to establish the breadth of the gap between the two. And if it doesn't seem like that gap is big enough, we have to explain that actually it needs to be thought of as being bigger than they think it is, and needs to have action taken to fix it, if that is the case. So then we go through, where we are now, where we need to be, what's the change needed, and what happens if we get that, we actually get that outcome, we get that change that we need. All right? So along the side here, it's got the implications. These are the implications of not taking any action. This is where you look at the opportunity cost, or you look at the future danger to the business of not taking action today. You look at the not turning on the investment today to not reap the rewards in the future. You highlight that future problem, if they can't see it now, so that they feel, okay, there are implications if we don't take action. That must be brought out, otherwise they don't feel any need to buy today. Yes, they might have an issue, yes, they might have a problem, but they don't do anything about it. And this is very, very common. This happens all the time. Yeah, I know, we know we've got an issue, but we'll get to it. Well, that's not pressing now. We've got more important issues than that. And therefore, there's no sale. And there's no solution of it. So this is the model. You start either here or here, interchangeable, and you work your way up. So on page, what have we got there? We've got as-is questions. So page 4.13, okay? There's some examples of some as-is questions. What are your current providers? How did you select them? Why did you start this new business? Blah, blah, blah. How's the situation today? How's the business running today? And then there should be, where do you want to be? Where do you see the business growing to? I mean, how large do you see this going to be? How much do you have to achieve on the top line? Or how much do you have to shave off the bottom line? Then on page 4.14, you've got, okay, well, what's stopping you? Why aren't you doing that? You need to get to where you need to be, but something's obviously got to change for you to do that, but that's not happening. Why aren't you making those changes? Why aren't you making those adjustments now? And then finally, the payout. And the payout is around about the individual, right? What's in it for them? Now, it could be them collectively as a group. It could be the actual individual, the one person themselves. So this is the type of thing as a structure that we need to design. So you've got here on 4.13, my as-is question and my should-be question. And 4.14, you've got my change question and my payout question. So let's design those. These are the core question skills we want to get into. We need to dig in and find out some information about where the pain points are. And this is how we're going to do it. Who's got the first question? All good? Okay, so let's design our as-is, should-be, our change, and our payout question. Let's go get it. Now, sometimes with Japanese companies, they will not talk about themselves. They will talk about the group or the company. That's fine. That's fine. If it's a Western company, the individual will often say, well, I get a big bonus. I get promoted. I won't get fired. They say very directly like that. Very, very rare. I've never heard actually any Japanese ever say that. They always talk about, well, the team will feel good. The company will progress. It'll be good for our business. It'll be good for our brand. They talk collectively. Right? These are because it's coming out of America, it's designed for more of a, conceptually, more of a Western audience. But in Japan, you're not going to get that. You're going to get more of a group approach to things. So your answer will not be about, well, I'm going to get a big bonus. I can't imagine any Japanese executive saying that, ever.
Is that why?
Let's see, 4.17. We talk about the transition now. Okay. So we've asked the questions, and we've got to transition. We've asked the questions, we know what they want. We've now got to transition into setting up, telling them the solutions. Okay? The next stage is we go into solution provision. But we've got to get out of questioning into solution provision. And this is how we do it. So we do a little summary and then a transition. So based on what you've told me, you know, your primary interest is this, your buying criteria is that, and this is how it will help you. Okay? And then that gives us the capacity then to move on to how we're going to deliver on those things that they want. But it's a little summary of what they've told us. And primary interest is the key thing they want to achieve. The criteria could be spec, it could be financial, it could be quality, it could be timing, it could be a number of things they will have told us, and then individual motive, what's in it for them. So at the end of the questioning piece, we then plug this in, all right? We plug this in. So on the next page, you've got on 4.18, 4.19, you've got a planning worksheet here. We're not going to do this today because I want you to do it for the next session. We're going to do this review, and some of the guys are not here today, so we'll get them to come back and look at it too. But so you go and you pick a particular customer. You talk about what's their buying perspective. Are they the executive buyer? Are they the user buyer? Are they technical buyer? Are they financial buyer? What was your agenda statement? Okay, what was the agenda for the meeting? And then what's an as is, should be, change, payout, and then how do you do the summary and transition? So the summary is we go through all of this stuff that they've told us what they want, and then we move into, now let me talk about some things we might be able to help you with. Right, that's the transition. Now let me talk about some things we might be able to help you with. Having listened to what you told me about, you need to achieve a higher sales rate, and the criteria is that you really need to happen fast in this financial year. And for you, this is going to be very important because your board members giving a hard time about the numbers. We can help you, and let me now explain to you how we can help you. Right? So it's that sort of smooth transition. Okay? I think that's something we can do that for homework. But let me pause there and just ask: are there any questions about what we've covered today? Yeah, pick a client. You know who they are, so you know which buying perspective they will have. Your target client might be the user buyer, might be the CEO, might be the CFO, whoever it's going to be. You'll know who they are. You'll know where they sit in the company. What's your agenda statement going to look like? What are your questions going to look like? And how's your transition going to look like in a summary transition? So you've basically mapped out what you're going to do, and then they will give you a whole bunch of answers which will direct. I mean, these are placeholders basically, because there'll be a bigger, deeper conversation under each of these as you get answers, which will then impact on how you present your solution. From this process of digging and confirming, we then go to, okay, having heard all that, this is what I recommend for you. Right? That's what's coming next. But we've got to get this part right first. If we don't get this part right, we're going to have a problem. This is why structure is very, very important. The client does not have any structure. They are totally unstructured. That's okay. They don't have any responsibility in this conversation to buy anything. We cannot be unstructured. We have to get it going in a flow. We've got to go from here, and we've got to get over here. Right? So we've got to go from the rapport stage, through the questioning stage, solution provision, deal with any issues they have to get commitment. That's a flow. And within the questioning stage, this is also, we've got to know where they are now, where they need to be, what's holding them back, what's it mean for that person. So we can appeal to them in our solution provision. The way we'll talk about that will be hitting a lot of resonance with them. I go, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, we need that, I need that. That's the whole point. The language we talk will be really on song with what they have told us they need, if we have the solution. Now, if we get to this point in the conversation after the questioning skills, we realise, no, we don't do that. Then you stop it right there. And then what do we do? What's the next stage after we say that? What do we do then? We've realised, we've asked a whole bunch of questions, realised...
Ask for a referral?
Exactly. We asked for a referral. Because now they've met us, they've got some sense of who we are, they realise we're a good person, and they're more comfortable to recommend others who would possibly have an opportunity to explore need. And it was a painless process for them. They didn't feel, oh, high sales pressure guy, you know, pushy salesperson. They didn't feel that. They felt it was very consultative. They felt a relationship was being built. They would feel comfortable to recommend you or I to meet with somebody they know. That's the point, right? So that's where we go with that. But there's no point wasting your time if there's no solution here. Get out of that conversation, get the referral, move on to the next client. So I ask you to go back and look at this before the next session, all right? And then we'll come back and we'll do a little bit more practice on this, and then work our way up into the next area, which is solution provision. And then after that, we deal with problems, potential problems, hesitations, concerns, difficulties. We'll deal with how to overcome those before we get into getting them to commit. All good?